When the war broke out, I could have stayed at home, I suppose. You see, women were wanted for all kinds of war work. In fact, I tried my hand at being an evacuation officer back in 1939, but something about it just didn't really appeal to me. So I decided I was going to go home, knit socks for soldiers, listen to the BBC on the wireless. Now, one evening, I was invited to a rather splendid party, and there I got talking to a gentleman who wished to engage me in French. Some weeks after this party, I was invited to an interview. I had no idea at all what it could be about, but, well, curiosity got the better of me, so along I went. Now, the address given on the invitation was Orchard Court, which is a series of rooms off Baker Street in London. On arrival, I was asked if I would like to take a seat in a black marbled bathroom, a somewhat unorthodox waiting room, I think you will agree. Eventually, I was called in for interview, and the man conducting it was an eccentric gentleman called Selwyn Jepson. Mr. Jepson started to ask me about war work, and he said there was some work he thought I might be suitable to undertake. He went on to tell me that they were looking for people who could speak French fluently, blend in with the French countryside and way of life, and have a desire to rid France of her Nazi occupiers. He let me go home to give it some thought, and then invited me back for another interview. And this time he told me more. They were looking for people, men and women, to infiltrate into enemy-occupied territory. We would train as wireless operators, couriers, saboteurs, liaison officers, and we would be sent into enemy-occupied territory, in my case into France, either by parachute, oh, heaven forfend, a small landing aircraft called a Lysander, or even on a small boat called a felucca. He told me to go away and give it some thought. And I did think to myself that I really didn't think I was the kind of person that they wanted. But I was determined to do my bit. And I thought, well, what's the worst can happen? Maybe at least I should give it a go. So I agreed. And I was put into this uniform of the First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, or the Fanny for short. Oh, they'd been set up well before the Great War and had served admirably both in that war and in this. The uniform would give me cover for while I was undertaking my training. You see, one of the problems was, when in the field at least, that we would not be protected by the Geneva Convention. So being on the pay books of an organisation such as the Fanny might just give us some cover. Now, my first training course was the preliminary course. This was held at Winterfold Manor. Oh, an absolutely stunning place, an old requisitioned stately home. In fact, we later said that SOE stood for Stately Homes of England. Now, they taught us all sorts of things on this course, things that never in my wildest dreams would I have imagined that I would do. I had to do physical training, use explosives, learn to shoot a gun. Everything was done in French, and it was all done under commando cover. Of course, this makes perfect sense for the gentlemen, but do you know of any ladies in the commandos in 1942? Me neither. It really confused one of my friends. A couple of days into this course, she elbowed me. "I say, Cecile," she said. That's my code name, by the way. "What is it that we're doing here exactly? I thought I'd answered an advert to be a bilingual secretary." Poor girl! What on earth did you think we were doing? Crawling across the countryside on our bellies, being timed at assault courses, blowing things up and shooting things down. Hardly secretarial now, is it? We had to do all sorts of things I had never dreamed possible. There were trees to be climbed, gaps to be jumped, a 50-foot rope to be slid down, a high slack wire you had to cross with only another slack wire above for a handhold, and a dizzying platform off which one had to jump, catch onto a rope 6 feet away and slither down to safety. It was all quite strange. But if I wanted to get on with my training, I had to get on with this. Evenings were a rather relaxed affair. Dinners were unrationed, and we were encouraged to drink as much as we liked. The reason being, if we got slightly pickled, would we talk too much? What would we say about ourselves? And whatever we said, what language would it be in? Anyway, I passed the preliminary course with flying colours, and then I was sent to Arisaig in Scotland for the tougher part of the training, the paramilitary course. Oh, the weather in Scotland. Well, if you weren't soaking wet, you were being bitten to pieces by midges. But as Major Ambrose Fife said, after all, when the men and women are crawling through the peaty bogs of Lake Morar, they are, of course, nothing but bods in battle dress. We had to do physical training, mountaineering, learn how to kill food on the run. We had to work and live along with the countryside, and we were taught the physical sides of the training. We also had to become used to using our weapons. In this case, the Stun gun, the Bren gun, and plastic explosive. One of the things we had to learn to do was to put together our Sten guns. Quite often these would be kept in their component parts so that if the Germans found them, they would be completely and utterly useless. We had to keep them well oiled as well, and in preparation for any time when we might need to get them together as quickly as possible. Now, the reason for this was that there might be an ambush, or we might be needed urgently by a fellow resister. Often we would practice this blindfold, in the dark, and very often our instructors were timers along the way. After the paramilitary course in Scotland, I was sent to Ringway near Manchester, and this, I will be honest, was the bit I was absolutely dreading, the parachute training. We had to do 4 jumps if we wanted to get our parachute wings, which of course we could never stitch onto our uniforms even if we got them, because what's a nice girl doing jumping out of an aircraft? Anyway, we had to jump from a stationary barrage balloon. This was absolutely terrifying. My knees turned to jelly and my throat went dry, but somehow I managed it. Luckily, I only had to do it once because the weather was inclement for the rest of the course. The jump from the aircraft, well, that is perhaps the most frightening. Each jump seems as unnatural as the first, but in a strange way, you sort of get used to it. After the parachute training, we were split into 2 groups, as girls at least. Some girls went off to be couriers, and I was chosen to become a wireless operator. This course was held at Tame Park in Oxfordshire, and I can sum up this course very quickly for you. Morse, more Morse. I dreamt in Morse code. I started to knit in Morse code, and the birds, just listen. You think it's an innocent song, don't you? It's not. They're singing to you, and it's in Morse code. Don't think I went completely mad. I truly didn't. I learned how to fix my own wireless set, how to deal with the jamming and the blocking of signals that the Nazis were so interested in doing, and I was sent on a 72-hour exercise. The police were given my description, and with my wireless set, I was sent off through the countryside to try and find somewhere safe from which to send a message. I got through that one completely unscathed. After the wireless training, I was sent to Beaulieu in the New Forest. There, I had to live and think as if I was already in France. I had to look normal and ordinary while doing extraordinary things. We had to eat and dress and behave as if we were already out there. We had to learn the difference in the uniforms, the Abwehr, the milice, the French collaborators working alongside the Germans. We learned that not every French person was necessarily in the resistance, and there were plenty of collaborators out there. We were taught things like never ask for a café au lait, for there is no milk to be put into your coffee. Ladies no longer get a cigarette ration. We had to live and think as if we were already out there, and our instructors tested us to the extreme. You see, at Beaulieu, we had a mock interrogation. For mine, I was tucked up in bed with a cup of Ovaltine, reading a romantic novel, all snuggled under my eiderdown, when I was woken by a heavy hammering on my bedroom door. When I opened the door, I could see it was my instructors, but they were dressed in leather trench coats and trilbies. They looked like Gestapo. They dragged me out of my bed, dragged me down the stairs and into the cellar. There they shone a bright light into my eyes, and they asked me questions about what I had done that day. Kind of sounds ridiculous now, but where did you go? What street did you walk down? What time was that? Who were you with? Did you go to a cafe? Did you take afternoon tea? What did you have? What did you pay? What was the name of the cafe owner? They then told me that they'd interrogated one of my friends already and that her story contradicted mine, so who was telling the truth, her or me? I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was not like a game at all. Weary, exhausted, I went back to bed. I wondered what on earth I was doing. Jumping out of aircraft, climbing trees, shooting guns. Cecile, this isn't you. But after a good night's sleep and a hearty English breakfast, things seemed a lot rosier, and I did my training. I completed it. My report said I was wonderful. I was given flying colours, and I could be sent out to join a circuit in France as soon as the next full moon was available, and there was an aircraft to take me. How thrilling. I went home. I put my affairs in order. I wrote a will and letters to my family to be posted at intervals. I said I was going to be an ambulance driver in Scotland. You see, I was bound by the Official Secrets Act. I couldn't tell my family or anyone what I was really up to. Then, the night of the full moon, November 1942, I was picked up and driven to RAF Tangmere. There, after the most wonderful farewell meal, my handbag and my pockets were searched for cigarettes, receipts, bus tickets, you see, anything that would give me away as being British. The attention to detail was meticulous. My hair was cut and coloured, my fillings replaced with French ones. It truly was an epic journey. Then, over my new French clothes, I was given a jumpsuit and I had my handbag strapped into my lower back. They offered me an L pill, a suicide pill, a cyanide capsule, just in case the worst should befall me. Then, nervously, without a backward glance, I made my way towards the Halifax aircraft, rather unsure of my future. "Good evening," said the pilot. "This is a first. We've never taken parachuters, you know." No, I didn't know, I thought, and honestly, that's the kind of thing I didn't need to know either. Nervously, I strapped myself in, hooking up the static line to make sure that everything was in order. Then I heard the rumble of the engines, and we took off. I looked out. I was leaving England behind. We were soon over the Channel. What on earth was I doing? Leaving my home, my friends, my family, flying into occupied territory. I would never ever know if the next knock at my front door came from a friend or stranger. I was given a life expectancy of 6 weeks. But I was a fully fledged secret agent, and I was ready to do my bit, working alongside the resistance and other agents in preparation for the largest Allied invasion of all time, D-Day.